Welcome into the Brooklyn Nets post-game show alongside Sarah Kustok. I'm Michael Grady. A lot of anticipation for this first game of the season, and we talked in the pregame show about not knowing how tonight could go. Could the Nets be fired up? Could the Bucks be a little bit drained after the ring ceremony? Well, the Bucks were fired up, and it seemed like an uphill climb all night for Brooklyn. Yeah,
it just felt like Brooklyn was a step slow, in which the Milwaukee Bucks came out firing on all cylinders. They had a sharpness and a refinement to their game, and it comes with looking like the defending champions, a continuity with this group. Giannis looked tremendous, as we have continued to watch him say, but it was both ends of the floor for this Milwaukee Bucks team, and every time that the Nets seemed to inch a little bit closer, they just couldn't get over the hump. And it was interesting to watch, because we know there's a lot of new faces, some new pieces for this Brooklyn team, and so you know, as we started to see the rotations, how it was going to look here tonight, I know that the thought of that is that it will be fluid throughout the course of the season, but something that we'll continue to watch and monitor as this Brooklyn Nets team goes through it.
Yeah, trying to figure out the rotations, but as you mentioned, it just didn't seem to be that extra oomph from the Nets. Meanwhile, Milwaukee looked like they were the ones playing with the chip on their shoulders. You look at the final stats from this one. What jumps out at you here, Kuz?
Points off turnovers is one thing. A lot of missed free throws for the Nets, and you could look at the percentages when it comes to how the Nets shot the ball from deep as opposed to the Bucks, but the discrepancy comes from the same issues that we have often talked about with this Brooklyn Nets team last year, whether it's points off turnovers, second chance points, the extra shots that teams get with possessions because of some of those areas is something that you look at a score like this, and yeah, a 23-point game, but a lot of that comes down to those offensive rebounds, comes down to the fact that they're creating and generating some offense out of the defense. And for the Nets, those are areas that we know have been issues last season. It's a new season, but still some of the things that they've got to make sure to try and clean up moving forward.
Yeah, Kevin Durant was just talking about that after the practice before they made the trip out to Milwaukee. That's one of the things that he looks at first. How many more shots is the opposition taking than we are? Well, tonight, Milwaukee took 22 more shots, and to your point, outscored them when you combine the second chance points and the points off turnovers, 55-4. Ouch. Let's get to some highlights from this game as well. Something they got to clean up. It's 1 of 82. Before the game, the Bucks get in their rings as part of a pregame ceremony honoring the second NBA championship in team history. The run, again, went through the Nets in that thrilling 7-game conference semifinals. And that is a massive ring. First quarter action. Bucks dominated in the early stages. And we're going to get a baseball pass. Middleton to Giannis, finishing with the bucket and the foul. Bucks leading early. And Giannis looking better on both ends of the floor here, Kuz. Block on Nick, and that leads to offense on the other end.
Well, this is a lot of the Giannis that we've become accustomed to, but he even took it up a notch in this one. And, you know, for the Bucks, look at the spread floor, how wide open it was. They were excellent from the three-point line early on. And, yeah, another look at Giannis just gumming Nicholas Claxton, but that's a major aspect of what he brings to the table and why the Bucks can thrive in transition.
Jrue Holiday knocking down the three, and they go up 31-12. Nets trying to answer. Look, let's go dancing. Ooh. James on Giannis's brother, Thanasis, getting the bucket. Nets within 12 after 1. Second quarter, Brooklyn trying to make a run. Harden going to have a step back, knocking down the tray. Nets trying to make a run here, trying to build some momentum.
And that's an example of it. Cut it to 10, but then look once again, all of a sudden the lead balloons to 19 for Milwaukee. You saw Jrue Holiday hit the basket there. He did leave the game, though, with a right heel contusion.
Kevin Durant knocking down the wing three. Struggled with the shot a little bit early and eventually got into a rhythm. Nets trailing 61-48. And later it's down to single digits. Patty Mills finds Claxton cutting to the basket for the slam. Now the deficit is down to 6. Last minute of the half. Blake Griffin going to be on the receiving end of this alley-oop from Kevin Durant. The Nets trailing by 7 at the break.
And we saw some flashes, a play like that where the Nets started to get some continuity, but could just never string it together for long enough.
Lopez with the block on Claxton here. Bucks off and running, a lot of energy to start this third quarter. Then it's Middleton draining the floater, still playing with a lot of confidence. It's an 11-point advantage.
The Middleton sometimes just makes it look so easy, and Giannis to go along with it. But look at how often we're seeing plays and possessions by Milwaukee where they're running in the open court. They played with pace in the full court, in the half court. And, yeah, Chris Middleton, silent assassin. He keeps coming at you from all different spaces on the floor.
So underrated. That put them up by 14. And there's a little bit of a run. How huge was Patty Mills tonight?
Well, I know we were all excited about the addition of Patty Mills, but he showed exactly why. Sniper from the three-point line, and James Harden adding a little bit of that as well.
Final seconds of the third. Jordan Nwora playing with a lot of confidence, gets that floater to fall. It's 97-85 after 3. Fourth quarter, too much Giannis. He's going to grab this offensive rebound off the three here, and this Nick Claxton just not physical enough in the post. Giannis gets the easy throw down.
We see a lot of examples with Giannis and Nicholas Claxton. Part of a big reason why Nicholas Claxton got the start. Just a lot of body, a lot of physicality, and for as much finesse. And we see a young player in Nwora doing some work. But for Claxton, I think a lot of film for him to watch and how he can bulk up his game.
Giannis again driving, finger roll coming in from the three-point line. Bucks leading 112-95. Late stages of the fourth. Giannis is going to hand it off to Connaughton for the slam. Bucks leading by 16. And with 3:38, Steve Nash pulled the starters, and it's a 127-104 victory. When he pulled the starters, Bruce Brown saw his first minutes of the game. This is something that a lot of people were talking about. DeAndre Bembry also got his first minutes of the game in those closing seconds as well. This is going to be a feel-out process for sure for Steve Nash. A lot of quality players at his disposal. Some guys are going to be on the outside looking in.
Well, and here's the thing to remember when it comes to rotations and personnel, and we are touting the reasons why you should be so optimistic about the Nets, not just because of the star players and Kevin Durant and James Harden, but about the depth of the team. What does depth, though, present? A very good problem, but a problem that you're not always going to get everyone a lot of time and a lot of run, and particularly early in the season, this being opening night, sometimes you want to give guys some leeway. And as we saw throughout the course of the highlights, yeah, did Milwaukee open up some big leads, but the Nets kept cutting it into some single digits where you think, okay, maybe we'll let this group get it back together. So I think this will be a theme that we see. Sometimes it's a guy's night to let's see what you can do. And as the games go on, the weeks go on in the season, you're going to find more of a consistency in what the rotation and lineups may look like.
Is it bothersome to a certain extent that some of the issues that we saw in the preseason carried over into this first game, or does it feel somewhat natural? That, you know,
let's eliminate it from being natural. I hope it doesn't start to feel too natural. But I think for these players, it all comes down to a sharpness and an attention to detail. And I think sometimes there's different approaches coming into game one. And Milwaukee, give them credit. They're the defending champs. They're the team that last year it dropped off a little bit in what their record looked like. But they had 2 straight seasons of just rolling through the regular season with the best record in the league because of how hard they play each and every night. There's a lot of continuity. Mike Budenholzer, we saw some tweaks in what they were doing with some switching on the defensive end, some of the different adjustments on the offensive end, but overall it's a team that knows one another real well. And I think on the flip side of things for Brooklyn, they're still getting used to one another. They're still getting used to schemes. They're still getting used to some of the things that they need to do. And so the attention to detail in terms of taking care of the basketball at 1 through 5 when you're switching, sometimes that can leave you vulnerable on the glass. Missing some free throws is something you don't ever want to see. But again, those are areas that, do you like to see that? No, but they do feel like fixable traits that the Nets understand that's a part of what they need to do to improve. But now it's